What's going on, friends? For years, Harley-Davidson has always seemingly been behind their competition. But for Harley-Davidson, why would you change the formula when it's working? Your core customer likes the 45-degree V-twin that basically sounds like one giant misfire with the potato-potato sound. Now, when you've got a strong customer base and that's what they're buying, why would you change the formula? And not to mention that Harley-Davidson really hasn't had any major competition that's really threatened them. Victory did a good job, but Harley-Davidson really didn't get to moving forward until Indian came along and really forced them to start innovating and moving forward and getting some more power out of their bikes. Now, one of the biggest things I always hear from anybody that doesn't like Harley-Davidson is they say it's antique engine architecture. They're way behind the times. They need liquid cooling. They need this. They need that. Harley-Davidson has tried to give us things like that over the years, hence the V-Rod. When the V-Rod came out, it came out in the Power Cruiser era. And the V-Rod initially sold very, very well. And then the V-Rod, basically the sales just dropped off with it because everybody still wanted the air-cooled 45-degree V-twin. And what happened was when the V-Rod came out, everybody that was really interested in that type of motorcycle bought one, and then the sales slumped. When the sales slumped, they basically went in, redid it, and they went to the Night Rod. And they just kind of updated it over the years, which kept that bike alive from basically 2002 all the way to 2017. But Harley-Davidson, other than that, from that period on, they really hadn't tried to innovate much. And honestly, they really didn't have any reason to because their motorcycles were selling so well. Now, of course, we all remember Victory had the Freedom 106. Harley-Davidson basically went from the 88 to the 96 to 103, and they never really offered any bigger engine during the twin cam era for basically, I would say, their mainstream bikes. They still had the Screamin Eagle 110, which was only offered in the CVOs, but I guess the way Harley looked at it was, hey, we still have a bigger engine than Victory, but it's going to come in the CVO. You can get a Screamin Eagle 110, or Harley being Harley, they weren't going to offer a more powerful motorcycle right off the showroom floor, but they would still give you the option to get in the Screamin Eagle catalog and build you a bigger motor out of there, upgrade your 103 to a 110. Guys, please don't forget, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Now, Harley-Davidson has never really blown their competition away. Harley-Davidson has always kind of gotten close, maybe on the same level with their competition, but they've never really done anything revolutionary that just blew anything else out there on the market away. They've always been kind of mediocre and really, honestly, kind of behind the curve. And as Harley-Davidson has always been really kind of an evolutionary company, more of a revolutionary company. Now, here lately, in the past couple of years, we've seen some major changes out of Harley-Davidson. And a lot of this came from Indian, Polaris basically reviving the Indian name. They gave Harley-Davidson some real competition. And honestly, it doesn't seem like they were too threatened by Victory. Victory sold pretty well, but as we all know, Victory kind of caved in on itself. And for years, Victory had a performance bagger kind of setup with the inverted forks, kind of the higher performance engine, the performance suspension. Victory really kind of started that whole game. But it wasn't until Indian came around that it seemed like Harley-Davidson really said, okay, now we got to innovate. Perfect example of that is we look at the Indian Scout, the liquid-cooled Scout. What did Harley-Davidson have to put up against that? Evolution Sportster 1200, Evolution Sportster 883, way behind the Indian Scout series. So where I say Harley-Davidson really doesn't blow their competition away, here's what they did. They came out with the Sportster S, 120 horsepower motorcycle. Indian Scout, only 100. But the Indian FTR, the FTR 1200, that bike's 120 horsepower. Harley-Davidson could have easily put a little more horsepower into the Sportster S, but they didn't. Yes, they blew away the Scout with the horsepower, but they kind of met the FTR on the same level as far as power-wise, and they kind of split the difference between kind of a sporty bike, and they split the difference between a cruiser. It kind of falls in between. It's not really one or the other, in my opinion. Now, the past few years, we saw Harley-Davidson actually come out with some performance-style baggers in the ST series. We had the Street Glide ST, and we had the Road Glide ST there for a little while. The only thing they didn't do is they didn't put the inverted forks on them, but it was kind of that performance bagger setup that, to me, at first thing I thought was, that kind of harkened back to what the Victories used to be. So once again, at the time when Victory was producing those, Harley-Davidson didn't come out with anything like that to try to match them. Now, of course, with Indian motorcycle coming back around, Indian did this on purpose. Indian made their Thunderstroke 111. That was to go 1 cubic inch bigger than basically the Screamin' Eagle 110. Now, of course, the Milwaukee 8 came out to pretty much compete with that engine, in my opinion, and they did a 107 first, then the 114 was offered in the CVOs, and then slowly, Harley-Davidson style, we watched that 114 trickle down into the regular production motorcycles. Then Indian turns up the heat with the Indian Challenger, a 120 horsepower liquid-cooled engine that they were putting in the baggers. Harley-Davidson took a little different approach there. Instead of actually coming out with their own large displacement liquid-cooled engine for the baggers, Harley-Davidson took the Milwaukee 8 and just started making it bigger. They put the 131 in there, and now we've got the 135. That basically, with all the emissions equipment on it, if you do the Screamin' Eagle exhaust and you set it up what would be emissions legal, it basically just meets the Indian Challenger bone stock. Or if you stage 1 it, it's basically on the same level as the Indian Challenger, but it didn't really blow it away and exceed it. Now, with this model year, we've seen some things out of Harley-Davidson that look really, really promising. Indian came out with the 116 Thunderstroke. They started offering this basically in all their bikes as an option. Now, Harley-Davidson, they came out with the 117. They put the 117 in regular production. Before, you had to get an ST model, you had to get a CVO, you had to get something special to get that 117 engine. Now it's standard. So once again, Harley-Davidson has just kind of barely edged out Indian in the horsepower and displacement department. Now, Harley-Davidson did take it a step further and started putting more technology in the bikes, getting rid of basically the analog gauges, going to the big screens in them. Now, I know there's a lot of mixed feelings out there about that, and I have that too, but Harley-Davidson really is trying to innovate and move forward. But for most of the time that Harley-Davidson's tried to do anything innovative, it really was kind of rejected by Harley-Davidson fans and buyers. And a good example of that is the Pan America. The Pan America sold really well when it came out. The deal with the Pan America, in my opinion, is that everybody that wanted one went out and got one, and the sales, basically the big new thing out there, everybody went and bought one, and then the sales kind of level off and start slumping. So this year they tried to come out with a CVO model, try to spark some more interest in it. And I'm curious to see how that bike's going to sell. But for the most part, Harley-Davidson never blows the competition away. They always kind of meet them on the same level, or they'll just barely edge them out just enough to get by. And part of that is because Harley-Davidson's kind of in a box. Anybody that wants a Harley-Davidson, they think of the air-cooled V-twin, and that's pretty much, when you're going to buy a Harley, that's what you go and get. But at the same time, it's good to see Harley try to innovate and spread out a little bit and bring some more people into the Harley-Davidson umbrella. And even if they're riding a liquid-cooled bike, I guess the intention is from Harley is that eventually they can get them on an air-cooled bagger. But if you could really call the new baggers air-cooled completely, since they have liquid-cooled heads. And honestly, I'm looking to the future here, and knowing just enough about Harley-Davidson to be dangerous when it comes to their market and their thinking on how they're going to produce their bikes and what kind of innovations they're going to go to, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see water jackets in the cylinders in the coming years when it comes to the Harleys. I always believed that twin cooling system on the air-cooled engines was kind of the prelude to Harley-Davidson going all liquid-cooled while still trying to look air-cooled, and I hope that's the direction they go, and they don't go to something that looks like the Indian Challenger engine, because I really don't think that's going to be received very well by anybody that's interested in buying Harley-Davidson. But that's just my opinion, and only time will tell. But as far as Harley-Davidson is doing right now, they're moving forward. The bikes are getting more powerful. They're getting redesigned. They're trying to restyle them a little bit. But honestly, I still like the old Harleys. I don't think you can beat that classic design. The new ones, one of those things, it's going to have to grow on me personally. But honestly, I just have it my way. I would go with the old Road Glide or the old Street Glide. But if you guys remember, when they redid the Road Glide, when they updated it after the Rushmore project with the new fairing, everybody hated it. And then the Road Glide was still taking a backseat to the Street Glide. Everybody got used to it, and everybody started to like that style. But don't get me wrong, it wasn't as crazy innovative, and it wasn't a big change like with the new Road Glide and the new Street Glide fairings. But guys, as I said, only time will tell. We'll just have to see what happens in the future with Harley, and if they start actually exceeding and beating their competition, rather than just meeting them and just going just enough to get ahead of them. But anyhow, guys, I want your opinion. Do you think Harley-Davidson needs to keep doing what they're doing? Do you think maybe they need to go back in time a little bit, maybe offer like classic models to kind of give us some more options compared to the new modern look? I want your opinion. Let me know in the comments on that. But anyhow, guys, that's all I've got for you this week. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. But till next week, guys, you stay safe on the streets, ride smart, dodge those cars, and I'll catch you guys back here next week with a brand new video. Thanks for watching.